Okay, this meeting is now being recorded. Hello and welcome to the SIG Docs meeting, weekly meeting for Kubernetes on September 12th, 2017. I am your host, Zach Corlison, and let's get rolling. Let's see, let me post a link to the agenda in the chat window, just in case you did not already have that open. All right. I don't think we have any new attendees, but do we have any new attendees today? Going once, going twice. Everyone's an old hand. This is you get grizzled pretty quickly in this SIG. All right. Let's see. First on our agenda is repo labels. So we are down from 154 repo labels to 30. If you want to see what went away and why, you can see there's a link to an issue, number 5339. And if you have any questions about that, even though the issue is closed, we can absolutely discuss it there. In the middle of removing a lot of labels, there was a request for a new label for tutorial-related content from the Katacoda team who builds the tutorials. So there is a team/Katacoda repo label now. So if on the off chance you happen to be doing issue triage and you see a tutorial-related PR or issue that's been opened, that's the label you can assign to it. That will make sure that it finds the home it needs to, that it gets to the home where it belongs. If we need a label for something and there isn't a label, open an issue and we can get that taken care of. All right. Moving on to updates for the 1.8 release. Jennifer, do you want to talk about where we are with 1.8 and where we are with release notes and SIG Docs?
I will let Steve speak to where we are with feature docs, because that's his baby.
Excellent. Yes, Steve is our release meister for 1.8. So, Steve,
since I see him in the Zoom window, and since he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. But with regard to the release notes, Radhika and I have been meeting briefly several times a week to talk about how we want to proceed. It looks as though there is still a bit of outstanding content to come in. So for purposes of redoing the information architecture, I started a Google Doc this morning. I should share it with you too, Zach. I haven't actually done very much with that because as I was looking through the content a little more carefully, I realized just how much is still missing. And I don't mean things undocumented, but I mean inadequate release notes. Notably, very few of them actually tell anybody what changed. I believe the SIG auth is one notable exception to this. They've done a very nice job of explaining what changed and in some cases why it matters. Some of this is pretty easy to extrapolate, some of it is not. And I will just put it to this relatively small group, most of whom aren't involved in the release, and then I'll figure out who to ask about this. Right now, I'm thinking since writers are newly assigned to this release, my plan at least is for one case where I can identify the author of a bunch of content that's missing this what changed and why it matters stuff, I'm going to ping the author of it directly. It's not hard to find, and I'm hoping that a call, an in-person conversation of some sort will be the easiest way to clear this up. I'm
sorry to interrupt. Where are we in the release timeline with release notes? How much? I seem to recall from the burn down meeting yesterday that we're getting pretty close to needing to be done with notes.
Yep, we are 2 weeks out at this point. The 27th, I think, is the scheduled release date. So no, there's not a whole lot of time for this. And
is there anything that other writers or other contributors from the SIG can help with?
Right now, I want to do a trial balloon of this conversation approach before I suggest that we try to extend it. And I don't know how, I'd kind of like to brainstorm it a little bit more with Radhika when she's back, because I think that she's not out for too long. And then we may well be asking other folks, can you please go talk to, I would try to identify specific individuals. And, it's not that hard to do that much digging in the PR history to see who actually authored content. That the PRs, except for this one, which was the first one, the PRs are pretty clear about it. So I'd like to proceed incrementally on it. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm talking about a matter of a day or two. And I will put a shout out into the Slack channel.
Sure. Okay. And if there's anything that we can help with, please boost signal, and I'm sure we can find folks to jump in and help how we can.
Yeah.
All right.
Right now, for folks who are more, who've gone through a release or two, my biggest concern, and Radhika's too, is that I don't know how to answer this, how to get better content for what already exists. I know how to deal with that. I mean, one way or another, we can figure that out. Where content might be completely missing, I don't know how to figure that out. That's probably the biggest concern. And so if anybody on this call is in touch with people, at this point I'm thinking individual context may be most effective. If you know folks, individuals in other SIGs, if you can ping them and say, you have release notes still outstanding. If you don't have any release notes to contribute, please go just put a checkbox in the list in the repo. If it's fine if you don't have anything to contribute, but we need to know that you don't have anything to contribute. And I know this isn't the group that can solve that problem for us, but if you're working with contributors to the code base, just any way, I'm floundering, trying to think of more ways to get the word out.
Okay. Steve, do you want to give us an update about the state of feature documentation?
Sure. Can you, do you have a link to the tracking board there that we could look at?
That is a really good question.
I thought it was in the agenda.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It's, let's see. Let me see about sharing this window.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just, as you're looking for that, I'll say we're both on track, and I'm a little worried. We're on track with everything we know about, and those are the those are the ones that have marked needs docs yes in this spreadsheet. Some of them have PRs already, and I feel like we have time to handle the remaining PRs for any of these that are marked yes. But we may need to do something similar to what Jennifer's proposing for release notes and ask people to put a no in here if they have nothing to contribute, because I'm just wondering if we have it all. That's
Sure.
Andrew, what did you do last time around?
Yeah, they need to give a firm yes or no on that.
Okay. I'll spread the word to
Have you contacted the SIG leads?
Yeah, every week I send email to several groups, including SIG leads, and it's generated a tiny amount of new yeses in here and some pull requests, but I'm still just wondering, if there are some people who haven't done this.
Have you talked with Jace Dumars?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's, if you're not getting, if people are just not responding, then I think that's worth escalating into the burn down meetings, and so that Jace can start writing people too, because you shouldn't have to be trying to get people to respond to you at this point. So
and we have done that
that's
too.
Burn down meetings are for. They should be knocking the heads for you.
I did show this spreadsheet at one of last week's burn down meetings, I think Friday. And I'm talking with Jace on the Slack channel. So yeah, we're doing a lot of those things. I just have to keep doing it and maybe do a little more.
It does seem like persistence is a whole lot of the reality of what we have to do. I was in, naming no names, but I was in a meeting yesterday wherein a contributor said, oh yes, and I think I have to get docs in for this feature this week. And I said, nope, the deadline was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Whereat the response was, oh, well, we worry about the docs later, and lots of times the docs come in after the release ships. And
no, that's not how that goes.
Well,
hey,
you know,
don't shoot the message. I'm just saying. There is this culture that we're having to sort of.
Sure, but it is getting better.
It's a slow adjust.
Yeah, and we do the ally relationships that we have with other SIGs are starting to build, and I think that things are starting to get better, and hopefully, we can build on this. We can build on what we learned from this release for the next one, because I'm the release meister for 1.9, and I don't want to have to be knocking heads the way you're knocking heads, Steve.
Yeah. So yeah, the schedule said that last week on Wednesday, your PR was supposed to exist, and by Wednesday tomorrow, it was supposed to be ready to be merged. So if people have not yet even created their PRs, they're quite a bit behind.
Okay, that definitely needs a mention in the burn down meeting tomorrow. So I will talk with Jace as well, and make sure that he's hearing, make sure that he's getting the urgency of this from multiple sources. And
okay.
If there's anything else that you need or that other contributors can help with, please do let us know.
Yeah, occasionally there will be a fairly large 1.8 feature PR, and so as those come in, maybe I could ask people for help doing edit paths on those.
I have been sitting in my queue, Steve, and I've not tossed it over the fence because I figure that I promise I will get to it. I know.
Okay.
I think I've got only one. I need to go back and review my queue again.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this spreadsheet. And I'm sorry, I should have asked for someone to take notes. I was not taking notes during that update at all from Steve.
Just put down herding cats, still in progress.
All right. Herding cats, still in progress. At the Jared smiley face. All right. So moving on to the code contributor guide. Andrew, do you have an update for us on where that is and how that's going?
Yeah. So it's just a quick update, and also I have to go in about 5-10 minutes because I'm going to be actually giving a presentation about the crafting user journeys projects that we've been working on to the GKE team meeting. They asked me to do that. So I need to prep a little bit, but so with respect to the code contributors documentation, so I've been working with Paris, who's a new community manager, and she's a Googler, and we have a list of people that are interested in helping out with that through it's sort of compiled from the issue in GitHub, and she's going through kind of like the governance stuff, like how do you start a working group, whatever. I mean, we kind of did ours like ad hoc, but I guess she's trying to do it more legit. So we just started like last week or so. So I'm going to start meeting with her regularly, and then we're going to have a meeting. And I think the key two people that we need in the meeting for the first one is Michael, and then also George or Jorge, or how do you pronounce his name? Jorge?
I think he goes by George. So
George, okay.
He goes by both. So it's just he says George is okay, but sometimes in his own videos he calls himself Jorge.
Yeah.
And here we mostly call him George for what it's worth.
Okay. So
okay.
Andrew, which Michael?
Hausenblas or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll give you more updates once it gets rolling. But the idea is that probably I will just sort of guide them with the high level kind of framework that comes out of like the user journeys project, and then she'll work with that working group more, like because they're probably at the like SIG architecture experience, contributor experience, and API machinery level, and kind of like herd those cats. But I think the initial MVP for that shouldn't be too difficult because Michael already assembled like all the materials that exist. So hopefully the initial version won't be too arduous, and then from that we can expand on it. But I think that's also brought up a bunch of other kind of personas that people want to pursue. Because there's one for the SDK stuff, which is actually kind of different than the code contributors. So there's going to be more stuff down the pipeline, and I'll update you when I get more info.
Awesome.
And then I guess for the next topic, agenda item, like for the Chinese translation project, Dan Cohn from the Linux Foundation, CNCF, suggested that we schedule one of our SIG Docs meetings to like something like 8 a.m. Pacific time, so that the people in China can join in, and then we can get synced up. Because they had had a flood of like PRs that were a lot of typos and stuff like that, which they have now reduced. But to get synced up with their effort, we should probably talk with them directly. And there's, I think, a thread going on in the SIG Docs Google group. But it sounds like they have it pretty well organized. They have like spreadsheets saying like who's supposed to do what, and like they have the list of contributors, so we can see like when we're looking at a PR, like are they part of the project or not. And for our part, we don't have to review it ourselves. We just have to tag it and make sure that they go through their review process before we merge it. And in general, their process is just that, like, they have several organizations, like different companies contributing. So whoever submits a PR, they need someone from a different organization to review it to keep them kind of legit. And then once that other person gives a LGTM, then we can go ahead and merge it. So and there are the tags like the needs CN review, like CN open issues and CN LGTM. So we can use that. And otherwise, you shouldn't need to do too much with it. And if you have any questions, just let me know, or like mention me.
Sure. Does there need to be an ongoing meeting, or is this a one-off?
I am not sure what the frequency should be, but we can figure that out. If we just schedule like a first one, then we can figure out maybe it's monthly. I don't know, because it definitely doesn't need to be that frequent, but just enough. I mean, it could be monthly or quarterly, but we'll see after we talk with them how well organized they are.
Sounds good. Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Have fun at the GKE meeting.
Okay, yeah, and then I'll create a version that I can share with you guys, because I think right now it's an internal doc, so I'll just clear it and then share it out.
Awesome.
All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. All right. I think I wanted to boost the visibility on handling pull requests that have the needs tech review label. There is a list of available tech reviewers, but it's in the wiki. And the GitHub wikis are unfortunately silos. They don't. I mean, you can link to them, but they don't necessarily exist or present themselves well in the flow of information for a repo. So it would be a really good thing to keep that list fresh. So as you work with different SIGs and folks show an interest in docs, as you encounter people who would potentially be good reviewers, it would be awesome if we could add them to the list, just pull them for their interest, and make sure that that our list of tech reviewers is accurate and up to date and fresh with people who are interested in doing the reviews and are able to handle them well. was talking with Jennifer a little bit earlier about making sure that this list of tech reviewers is more accessible from the contributor docs. If someone would like to, make a couple of PRs against our contributor docs to add links to that list of tech reviewers, and make an update for what to do when a PR has the needs tech review label, that would be awesome. I will take an action to open an issue. Describing what needs to change. Updates to contributor docs. Someone wants to submit a PR. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I will take a look at that and I'll work on adding something to the contributor docs.
Awesome, thank you, Steve.
We might want to consolidate, and right now we have that information in a spreadsheet. We have it in a wiki, and maybe it should be on the docs. But we should maybe pick one place and just go with that.
Sure. Yeah, single sourcing that information would be best.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We originally had a presentation scheduled for today from Radhika about open source projects, but unfortunately she's had a death in her family and has had to take emergency leave. So condolences to her. We will reschedule that presentation for another time. But do we have any other items that we need to discuss? Anything else for the agenda? Going once, going twice.
Okay, I'll bite. Only because we've got extra time, and if this turns into something churn-ish, let's drop it. But along the lines of things that I have looked for and not found guidance on, in my queue for the docs repo currently, I've got a couple of long-ish PRs. They're not particularly difficult to review, but they are for purposes of editing for style. And as such, they do not, how can I put this diplomatically? They don't seem to be quite adequate. But I am disinclined. I'm not quite sure how to make the judgment call of go ahead and merge or send back comments. In some cases, these are PRs that have gone through multiple rounds of review before they landed in my queue.
So is your question about? So is your question about what to do with PRs that you're not sure about merging?
Where the issue is not the technical information, but conformance to style, readability, usability issues.
Sure. So are you asking about like how much guidance do we have as contributors? What should we be doing? I guess.
I realize what should we be doing is a very big kind of, all of the baskets question. Sure. But Kubernetes is the first large-scale open source project they've worked on. And I'm not going to stand on style guide persnicketyness. I just have no sense at all.
Sure.
I mean, none. My inclination is to merge because any improvement is better than no improvement. At the same time, are we, and I don't know the answer to this question, are we missing out on opportunities to help contributors improve their contributions? Is a PR the appropriate place to do this? I know these are high-level questions. This meeting may not be the place to discuss them. We had a little extra time, so we would toss them out there.
Sure. I think it can be a fairly short discussion. I think it could be as long as we could ever possibly pour words into it. But for the purposes of confining the discussion to when should we be saying yes and when should we be saying no, I think we can bound that reasonably well. Our style guide is fairly minimal right now. and it points to general things like readability. We don't have a fully mature style guide that says these are the specific conventions that you should use for an abundance of cases. It just says, is it readable? And so I think that bias towards merging content, realizing that this is a large open source project with many contributors, I think that's an okay bias to have. That said, there have been a couple of PRs where I have said no, where I've pushed back and said this technical content is great, but it's not readable. And that's difficult to do because I think what it comes down to is okay, let me back up. In terms of specific guidance, we have a lot of latitude. And when it comes to whether or not to say yes or no to a PR, will it take you more time to explain why you're saying no than it would take to just fix the PR? If it's easier to just fix the PR and then merge it. But I also think it's okay to say no in the very small handful of cases where a contributor's where the English is not especially good and would be a barrier to content rather than an enabler, however less than fluent. I think it's okay to push back and say, hey, this needs work. I can point you to some examples of why and how, but I think the bias towards helpfulness is good. Working for free as a writer for someone else is not good. So I guess in your own best judgment, if it feels like you are being asked to write something for somebody for free, that's not an okay thing to do, unless you have the volunteer bandwidth and you want to do it. But it's okay to push back when merging content would be a barrier. But it's also okay to dive in and make the tweaks to the PR that will make it better if doing so would take less effort than it would take to say no. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. And just having a conversation is helpful. Right?
Sure. Okay. So,
I mean, really TLDR, it's in the judgment of the assignee to decide whether to merge.
Right. I think the TLDR is that we trust each other. We all value the same. We value the quality of the developer experience. We have a lot of latitude. We don't have a mature style guide. Use your best judgment and do the most good that you can.
So I'll chime in on this. I face this quite a bit. For me, one of the things that makes a difference is this an existing piece of content that somebody has added a few paragraphs to? If it is, and if the rest of the document is not according to the style guide, say they're not capitalizing names of API objects, I don't hold up the PR to bring the entire document into line with the style guide. And in fact, I'll go in favor of consistency with the rest of the document. So that's one place where I do kind of the pragmatic thing instead of the pure thing, which would be to try to bring the whole document into alignment with the style guide. At the far end is a brand new topic. I just had one of these yesterday, written by someone who speaks English as a second language, and I think just telling them to go look at the style guide would be an exercise in frustration for them. In those cases, I'll do an edit pass either right there in the GitHub UI. That requires me to ask them to turn on allow edits by maintainers, because that's always turned off even if the person turned it on. But I've had some luck getting people to turn that on, and then I can make an edit. There was another one today that I thought was big enough. I need to edit several files. So I'm actually opening a pull request against that person's repo. So for me, it's a judgment call. I will go in there and do a full edit pass, maybe spend an hour or even two if it's a long topic. In other cases, I'll just put notes, a few notes. Could you change this to that? And in other cases, I will just let it stay consistent with the existing, doc that's not in our style guide.
That's helpful too. Thank you, Steve. And quite honestly, right now, my bottom line is if it's not too badly broken, I will merge it because I need to be spending more time on the release notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Last call for items for the agenda. Going once, going twice. Done. All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy rest of your Tuesday. If there is anything that anyone needs help with, I'd love to help. So feel free to speak up in SIG Docs. Right. Cheers. Enjoy.